beautiful people. So, let's talk movies. Specifically, I want to talk about the 1989 film, Robot Jox. I absolutely adore this movie. It's this ultimate low-budget, high-concept sci-fi schlock that we love. It's the perfect mashup of two of my favorite things in the whole world, which is stop motion and giant robots. Boom! That's this movie. With a little bit of a post-apocalyptic sci-fi thrown in there for good measure. So it's 50 years after a nuclear disaster has decimated the planet, and that means all war has been outlawed by the surviving nations, meaning that any political disputes between them can only be solved in the coolest way possible: giant robot gladiatorial combat. I'm no constitutional scholar, but I think that's a better system than the one we have now. So currently at odds are two countries. One, an American-inspired country called the Market, and another, a Soviet-inspired country called the Confederation. And they are fighting over, I'm not kidding here, Alaska. Yes, Alaska has since become an independent sovereign nation, and everybody's fighting over it. Good for you, Alaska. But I haven't even gotten to the best part. The best part is the real star of the show, the giant robots themselves. And man, these things are incredible. Just, you feel the size and the weight of these giant ponderous machines. They use forced perspective and blue screens and all sorts of trickery. Heck, they even built this giant metal foot that's the size of a dump truck just to get you to see how big these things would be in real life. You know, part of the reason I don't love the Transformers robots as much, you know, among other reasons, is because they don't really feel like giant robots. They feel like these nebulous CGI alien clouds that can kind of just fold up into whatever the plot requires them to do at any time. They can do backflips, they have no defined weight or dimensions, you know, they don't feel like a real object in this world. Whereas these models, part of the benefit of using practical effects over the CGI is that ostensibly these models have to be able to do everything that the robots are shown to do. When this robot moves its arms, you can see all the gears and motors that allow the robot to move its arms. And so it feels like a real piece of machinery that is in this world. And it adds not only to the realism, but also engages you as a viewer because it makes you feel like this could really happen. It's not just a bunch of magic space cubes. And of course, you can't talk about the robots without talking about the incredible special effects team that backs them up. David Allen and his crew are masters of the craft of stop motion. These things feel like heavy pieces of machinery. They intentionally slowed them down to look like cranes or dump trucks or real machines that you feel like exist in this world. You know, say if a human walks across the screen in 12 frames, every step of these robots is about 36 frames, so they're about 3 times slower than humans. In fact, one of the special effects crew recollects that sometimes they only got as few as 16 frames per day. Think about that. The robot models were so heavy they could only take 16 frames per day. And at 24 frames per second, that's not even 1 second of film. 1 second of film. That's not even one step. These guys have some serious patience. You know, they can't just CGI some crazy nonsense. But don't get me wrong, this movie has plenty of crazy nonsense, and it's awesome. The robots have every conceivable weapon packed into them. They've got wrist bolos, they've got shoulder missiles, they've got rocket fists, they've got a chainsaw for a penis. Yeah, because of course it does. Sure, why not? But I digress. And speaking of butts, man, there's a lot of them in this movie. Everyone's just constantly slapping each other on the behind to just really let you know how manly and excited they are. It's got a real Top Gun kind of vibe. You know, in the future, why does no one wear bras or underwear? They just wear this like skin-tight jumpsuit kind of thing. I don't know, maybe it helps with the roboting, I guess. But be warned, there is some nudity and profanity in this movie. PG? PG my butt. As for the acting, It's nothing too special. I mean, you know, there are some standout moments, but you don't really get sucked into the story. But despite being a mostly spectacle-driven effects film, this movie actually does tackle some pretty heavy themes. There's a lot of subtext about dehumanization and what makes a person human. You know, there's a whole subplot that revolves around these genetically engineered breed of robot jocks, and are they superior or are they even human? And, you know, a lot of characters dehumanize people of certain races and sexes, and there's a lot of classism. The main character, who despite his celebrity status is illiterate, he's the only one who cares about the lower class and whether or not maybe some of the spectators might be getting hurt by these giant robot battles. That's not something you really expect to see in a movie about giant robots punching each other. Stuart Gordon, the director of this film, said he drew inspiration from the Iliad, with the idea of champions representing their countries and going into single combat. And he said that he wanted to infuse that with the exciting childlike wonderment that he got playing with his Transformers toys as a kid, and from his favorite anime, Macross. Unfortunately, despite its lofty source material, the film never quite reaches that level of excellence. The execution kind of muddles a lot of the bigger ideas, plays into some problematic stereotypes, and certainly the film's dated blue screen effects and soap opera acting will turn off some of the non-film nerds and make the film a little less accessible than it might otherwise be. But one thing that we can all agree on, the music. Amazing. Goosebumps. Ugh, I could listen to that all night. Reminds me of the John Williams Superman theme. I'd say don't go in expecting a masterpiece or any sort of intense drama, but if you're just looking for a fun effects film that's a little cheesy but has some more meat on its bones than your average type of movie like this, I'd say give it a watch. I'd give my overall watching experience with Robot Jocks a B+. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope very much you've enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe for future videos, and comment down below what movie you'd like to see me review next. This week's positive pick is Pacific Rim. If you enjoyed Robot Jocks, you're sure to enjoy this modern-day successor. It's 100% worth your time, and it's honestly one of my favorite films. Anyway, until next time, stay positive.